Welcome to GrayPrimer, a weekly show that's mostly about miniatures. My name is Nick, I'm your host, and in this episode, it's another part of our Tau versus Guard special that's running all through May. We had the Tau start collecting yesterday, and from the Imperial Guard today, we have our start collecting Astra Militarum. Alright, so there are a few firsts for me in this one. My first ever Leman Russ, which is hard to believe after all this time. And my first ever Commissar model too. But definitely not my first heavy weapons team or standard troopers. I already have a few of those under my belt, but that's not to say I'm not excited to get these ones built. Because it's still early in the month. After I've gone through another start collecting set, or Battleforce, I might have different feelings about putting together standard guardsmen or standard heavy weapons teams, or Tau for that matter, especially those drones. But I'm going to get this unboxed and I'll be right back. So what actually comes included? So we have that Commissar figure, we've got 10 of the Cadian shock troops, we've got a Cadian heavy weapons team, and then we've got that Leman Russ battle tank. Okay, let's get into it. I'm expecting a bunch of different construction manuals here for the different kits, much like I got with the Tau start collecting. And some of these kits do date back quite some distance. And yeah, absolutely. This first sprue was dated 2005. Almost looks like a 6, but I'm pretty sure that's a 5. And yeah, 16 years old. And you can tell there's so much space in between the different pieces on the sprue here that you would never get that in a modern kit. You'd probably be able to fit all of this onto just one section. That's how optimized the layouts are now with the current technology. Underneath here we have a duplicate, and yeah, some lovely details in this. You got a really cool little Vox unit there. You can see all of the different weapons options and get all of their very beautiful faces. Cadians have a lot to be grumpy about. That's why they're not the most cheerful of folks. And then this can only be the Leman Russ. And this is dated 2009. So, again, not a spring chicken. And it kind of feels small to me. Perhaps it's just because I'm coming off of a bunch of orc conversions. I did that Bane blade and stuff. And those are huge. So maybe it's just that. Maybe when it has its tracks on it, it has its turret and things like that, it'll seem a lot larger. I'm guessing this is the Commissar. There's some cracker details in here as well. That chain is attached by this tiny little skull. And I'm guessing that goes to the tail of the pistol or something. Yeah, I can see the pistol here. And that's bound to be a much more modern sprue. Yeah, 2013 on that one. The rest of the Leman Russ, but it's my first time building one of these, and I'm pretty excited about it. This must be the heavy weapons team, so all of the different weapons options for that. 2003, so that's our oldest sprue so far. And then we have the rest of the heavy weapon unit. A bunch of 25mm bases. That looks like a 60 to me. Got the Commissar's instructions, so this would have been a blister pack. You could buy this separately. Here's the heavy weapons team with the 3 different options for loading this out. Incredibly straightforward, really. It looks kind of complex here, but I've built one of these before, and they're pretty easy. And here's the Cadian Infantry Squad manual. A really up-to-date manual for such an old kit. I mean, this was printed in 2018, so yeah, what's that, 13 years after the actual kit was sculpted? But yeah, I'm not complaining. It's great. It's great to see them updating manuals for stuff like this. I would have loved to have seen them do a similar thing for the Eldar, the Craft Worlds kit that I did a while back, because some of those instructions were so old. So here are 4 options for building the Leman Russ. I don't know if all the parts are included for all of these different kits, but maybe they are. There were quite a lot of guns on that sprue. So we've got the Leman Russ battle tank, the Exterminator, the Vanquisher, and then the Eradicator. But I'm looking forward to laboring over that decision later on. a huge data sheet here. That is just monster. There's so much stuff on this. That is incredible, actually. And then multilingual as well. I think the best thing I can do now is go get it all built, and I'll be right back. But let's get started straight away with the Officio Prefectus Commissar, who is this chap here, and a really nice standalone model. Love the pose. I love that he's looking right down the sights of his pistol here. There are tons of embellishments and details throughout this miniature. I like that the weapon is chained to his uniform. The sword is very cool. The little flick of the cloak here. And then the design within the cloak itself. And it's a really great place to start here. So there are definitely rules in place for how you treat guardsmen regarding their weapons loadout. I broke a few of those rules here because these guardsmen are going to be part of a much larger fighting force. So I just didn't want to restrict myself too much. I wanted to have a bit of fun as well with this early set because there are a lot more to go. So I want to make each step of it interesting. So let's have a look at, I definitely stayed within the 1 sergeant per unit of 10. So that's my sergeant right there. I stayed with just the 1 Voxcaster unit as well, which is here. But I probably broke the rules a little bit regarding heavy weapons and special weapons. Let's start with a standard guardsman with las rifle. This one has the bayonet already attached. And where possible, I tried to represent the use of the bayonet with an empty scabbard. So here you can see that there's the scabbard in the back of the webbing. Is empty. The knife is on the rifle itself. So I tried to just have that little bit of connection to reality. Tons of detail across this miniature. I do like the expressions on the faces with some of these. They occasionally remind me of like the Blood Bowl halflings because they can occasionally be a bit, I don't know, the only word I can think of is gurney. And the only strange thing that I noticed straight away with some of these is that they seem to have a connection on their backs there for a backpack. But there are very few backpacks actually included. Only the Voxcaster and the Flamer unit have actual connecting backpacks. So I'm not sure what the deal is there. Whether this was originally planned as part of a larger kit. Maybe there's a sprue that's just not in with this Start Collecting. I don't know. But anyway, it does seem a little weird that there's that connector on the back and nothing to put on it. You can see it here again. Right here, just this unused connector. And it's no trouble at all to shave that off and just sort of file it down to make the back smooth. But I left the connector there just to show you. You do get like water bottles and pouches and frag grenades and everything here for the belts. And to give you that standard Imperial Guardsman loadout. This one's having a look right down the sights there on his las rifle. And I like that pose very much. The sergeant figure here is screaming, got his chainsword up, he's got his arm primed back with a grenade in it. You can see the binoculars. I think I actually stole those from the Cadian heavy weapons team. It came with that kit, but it's in the same Start Collecting kit. It's part of this unit over here, so I figured it wouldn't hurt. Las rifle on the back. Gonna skip over that sort of standard guardsman with the las rifle, but have a look at this one with the elevated grenade launcher and digging this guy very, very much. Grenade launcher's pretty cool. There were pouches included within this kit that looked very much like these grenade launcher drum magazines, so I made sure that each of my grenade launchers had one of those on his belt as well, just to connect the weapon to the reload. Got another grenade launcher very similar to the first one. And then this flamer guy, and the flamer actually comes with a few extra components. The flame unit itself, a dedicated left arm, and then this fuel pack on the back, which connects directly into the flamer unit itself. Great details throughout, really, really nice miniature. Then the next one has the Voxcaster unit on the back, and I thought that this helmet looked very much like he had a microphone built into it, so it seemed to fit well with the Voxcaster unit. Really, it's the accessories that make these. Now, this last one I went a little bit rogue on. I actually took the missile launcher from the heavy weapons team and added it to one of these standard guardsmen. I just thought it looked so cool. Even the way his hand is here, just as he's looking into whatever this display is showing the ground probably at the minute. But to me, it just felt like a really good use of that extra piece of equipment that I wasn't going to be using from the Cadian heavy weapons team. I've got the spare missile on the back, and this just felt like the right thing to do here. Rather than just having that confined to my bits box, I figured it would look pretty neat on his shoulder. So that's the Cadian infantry looked at. Now I go on to the heavy weapons unit. And as you can see here, I've set it up with the autocannon, and it looks fantastic. And it's moving around there because I haven't actually glued this in. I'll show you why in a second. But you can see the operator here. You can see the spotter leaning on his rifle. He's pointing in the direction where he wants this dude to fire, I suppose. His rifle is slung on his back. Definitely not something he'd want to leave out of reach, just in case. And then the kit actually came with this backpack with a shovel attached to it, the entrenching tool. And I figured that because this guy didn't have a helmet, he would probably just leave it sitting on the end of this shovel handle. And I thought that was a nice little touch there. So that's kind of the setup for it. When you look at the weapon that I chose for it, the autocannon, I haven't glued that in place. I've left that removable. And it just means that I could switch it over to the heavy bolter here if I wanted. That just clicks straight into the top, and you can see it being fed from this box of ammo, which is a nice touch. I've got the las cannon here as well with its power cell. And I think the autocannon for me works best within this setup. It's my favorite of these heavy weapons visually. You also have the option of the mortar, and it's just might as well make it up while I had the bits in front of me. And then I move on to the Leman Russ. And the Leman Russ, this is the first time I've ever built one of these tanks, and it was actually a ton of fun to build. Yeah, incredibly enjoyable kit. I think it's been around for quite some time, but I just loved this. I love these big chunky side tracks, the huge, heavyweight sponsons on either side, this massive cannon, and then the crewman popping out the top here. So yeah, a lot of fun to build. The name of the Leman Russ that you go for is determined, I think, by the main armament here. So this is the Vanquisher battle cannon, but I didn't glue it in place because there was an option to remove that. Now, the other option is I could go with this, which is the standard battle cannon, and that will just pop in there nicely. I saw a similar thing with the Baneblade when I was building it. I'll put a link to that in the show notes below, because with the Baneblade and here with the Leman Russ, I'm able to alter the loadout, and it changes the actual designation of the tank itself. So now it's called a Leman Russ battle tank with the standard battle cannon in place. This kit also has a really, really cool feature with the 3 support weapons here. And none of these are glued. Currently heavy bolters. I didn't glue any of those in place because I was able to just have them interchangeable. And so you can load this out whatever way you want. So whatever way you want to roll it out onto the battlefield, you can. If you're taking like a bunch of different pictures of it or whatever, you could put in different weapon systems. And here you go. And they just pull out, pop them back in, and they sit in there pretty snugly. I imagine once you get a layer of primer onto that or some paint, you would have a really even tighter fit there. Or if you have a solid idea of the way you want to load it out, then you could just glue them in place. I do also like that all of these have a range of motion still in them, which is very cool. And the main cannon as well goes up and down, and it can also be fully rotated around the back there. So yesterday, the Tau Start Collecting set scored 75 out of 100. This is our first look at an Astra Militarum and Imperial Guard set. Does this rate higher for me? Well, but the Leman Russ, the heavy weapons team, the Commissar, and the range of options for the different weapons loadouts here, this pushes this kit into another category really for me. And I have to be thinking in terms of like 85 for this kit. I think some more personalization on the Guardsman would push it up into the 90s. I love the options. I love the fact that you don't have to glue stuff in place. You can just swap it out. So yeah, I'm going to say 85 for this one. And I'd have no hesitation in building out another one of these kits if anyone asked me to. No problem at all. And all of that gives the Guard a 10-point lead over the Tau after the first weekend. I didn't think the lead would be as much as that. I thought they'd be a lot tighter, and I didn't think I would rate this kit as highly as I did, but I really enjoyed it. So next weekend we'll find out if the Tau can pull back some of that deficit and points. They're going to have the Devilfish and some more Fire Warriors, but I've also backed that up with an XV25 Stealth Battlesuit set, because there aren't any other Start Collecting sets from the Tau. So they've got a bit of a double combo coming next week. And they're going up against the other Imperial Guard Start Collecting set, the Militarum Tempestus. That's coming up next week. And until then, please like, share, and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.